Here's a twist. The Trojan Horse, the most iconic image of the Trojan War, isn't in Homer's Iliad. This might come as a surprise to many, as the image of the wooden horse is so deeply ingrained in our collective consciousness when we think of the Trojan War. The Iliad ends with Troy still standing, its walls unbroken, Achilles' rage unresolved. The epic poem focuses on the heroics and tragedies of the warriors, leaving out the cunning trick that would eventually lead to Troy's downfall. The famous horse? It's a later addition, most vividly told by Virgil in the Aeneid, centuries after Homer. Virgil's epic poem provides a different perspective, adding layers to the myth and enriching the narrative with new elements. Virgil's version puts us with the doomed Trojans, not the triumphant Greeks, making the story a tragedy of trust and betrayal. This shift in perspective allows readers to feel the anxiety and dread of the Trojans as they unknowingly bring their doom within their walls. The omission in the Iliad suggests the horse was already a well-known legend, perhaps too familiar to retell. It's possible that Homer's audience was already so familiar with the tale that he chose to focus on other aspects of the war. Over time, the horse became more than a military trick. It turned into a myth about the dangers of pride and the cost of deception. The story evolved, taking on new meanings and serving as a cautionary tale for generations. What we think of as the war's climax is actually a later epilogue, a story that grew in the telling. The horse's tale was embellished and expanded, becoming a central part of the mythos surrounding the Trojan War. This only adds to its power and mystery. The fact that the story was not part of the original Iliad but became so iconic speaks to its enduring appeal and the human fascination with tales of cunning and strategy. The Trojan horse is a symbol that escaped its original story, becoming the enduring image of the war. It transcended its origins, becoming a metaphor for deceit and the unexpected consequences of seemingly clever plans. It reminds us that myth and history are tangled, evolving with every retelling. Each generation adds its own layer to the story, ensuring that it remains relevant and captivating. The horse's legend endures because it captures the imagination and the warning of generations. It serves as a powerful reminder of the perils of overconfidence and the importance of vigilance. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that refuse to stay in their original box. They grow, adapt, and continue to teach us lessons long after their first telling. Troy was more than a city. It was the ultimate prize, a symbol of wealth, power, and ambition that drew the eyes of the ancient world. Its name echoed across distant lands, inspiring awe and envy in equal measure. For centuries, Troy stood as a beacon of prosperity, its influence reaching far beyond its mighty walls. Guarding the vital trade route between the Aegean and Black Seas, Troy controlled the gateway between East and West. Merchants, travelers, and armies all passed through its shadow, making the city a crossroads of cultures and a hub of commerce. Ruled by the wise and powerful King Priam, and defended by the legendary Hector, Troy's royal family became the stuff of legend. Their courage and tragedy would be immortalized in epic poetry for millennia to come. Troy was seen as a proud, sophisticated civilization, renowned for its art, its wealth, and its vibrant marketplaces. Life thrived within its walls, where people from many lands mingled and traded. Its walls, said to be built by gods, rose high and strong, so formidable that they seemed unbreakable, a testament to the city's enduring strength and the ingenuity of its builders. For centuries, many thought Troy was just a myth, a poetic fantasy conjured by Homer and other storytellers. The city's existence was doubted, its story dismissed as legend. That changed in the 19th century when curiosity and determination led explorers to seek the truth behind the legend. Heinrich Schliemann, driven by the tales of old, uncovered the ruins of a real Bronze Age city at Hisarlik, Turkey. His discovery sent shockwaves through the world of archaeology. Suddenly the legend had a physical anchor. The stones and artifacts unearthed from the earth gave substance to the stories that had lived only in imagination. The Trojan War became more than a story. It became possible history, a real event that might have shaped the ancient world. The heroes and kings of myth might have walked those streets, fought on those plains, and left their mark on the land we see today. Troy's discovery blurred the line between legend and reality, reminding us that myths often have roots in truth, and that history is sometimes hidden just beneath our feet. That's why the story endures. Because it is more than a tale. It is a bridge between the world of gods and men, of dreams and earth. It's a myth rooted in real earth and stone, a legend that continues to inspire wonder and curiosity in all who hear it. The tragedy of Troy feels as human now as it did 3,000 years ago, echoing through time and reminding us of the enduring power of story. Every epic war needs a spark. Sometimes it's a clash of empires or a struggle for power. But in the case of Troy, it was something far more personal, a love story that ignited a legendary conflict. For Troy, it was Helen, Queen of Sparta, famed for her beauty. She was said to be the most beautiful woman in the world, a figure whose very presence could turn the tides of fate and inspire poets for centuries. Paris, a Trojan prince, either seduced or abducted her with Aphrodite's help, spiriting her away to Troy. Some say Helen went willingly, swept up by passion and the promise of a new life. Others claim she was taken by force, a pawn in the games of gods and men. Menelaus, her husband, was furious. His pride wounded, his heart broken, he demanded justice and vengeance. His brother Agamemnon saw an opportunity: unite the Greek kingdoms, attack Troy, and reclaim Helen. The call to arms echoed across Greece, summoning kings and warriors from every corner of the land. The Greeks launched 1,000 ships, bringing together legendary heroes, Odysseus, Ajax, and Achilles. Never before had such a force gathered, united by a single cause. They expected a quick victory, certain that their strength and numbers would overwhelm Troy. Instead, they faced a decade-long siege. The days turned into years, and the war became a test of endurance and willpower. The Trojans, led by Hector, held firm behind their walls. Their courage and determination matched the Greeks' ambition. The war became a brutal stalemate, neither side could break the other. The land between the armies became a graveyard of hopes and heroes. The gods meddled, heroes fell, and the fields ran red with blood. Each day brought new losses, and the gods' favor shifted like the wind. 10 years of fighting wore everyone down. Exhaustion and grief haunted both camps, and the promise of glory faded into endless struggle. The Greeks couldn't breach Troy, the Trojans couldn't drive them away. The city's walls seemed unbreakable, and hope began to wither. The war dragged on, hope faded, and both sides grew desperate. The cost of pride and passion was measured in countless lives. The cause was simple: a woman. The cost was immense. Helen's face had launched 1,000 ships, but the price was a generation lost to war. The stage was set for a desperate gamble. The Greeks would need cunning, not just strength, to end the war and decide the fate of Troy. After 10 years, the Greeks were exhausted. Achilles was dead, morale shattered. Odysseus, ever cunning, proposed a final, audacious plan tricked the Trojans. The Greeks would pretend to retreat, leaving behind a giant wooden horse as an offering to the gods. Hidden inside, a select group of warriors would wait. The rest of the Greeks would hide nearby, ready to return. The hope? The Trojans, believing the war was over, would drag the horse inside their city as a trophy. The horse was built from the Greeks' own ships, a monument to deception. Odysseus and his men climbed inside, sealing themselves in darkness. Everything now depended on Trojan pride and curiosity. The Greeks gambled everything on one final trick. The fate of Troy and the war hung on whether the Trojans would take the bait. Sometimes the boldest move is to trust your enemy's desire to believe. The trap was set. At dawn, the Trojans found the Greek camp deserted. Only the massive wooden horse remained. Joy erupted. After 10 years, it seemed the war was finally over. The horse was seen as a divine offering, a symbol of victory, but not everyone was convinced. The priest Laocoon warned, "Beware of Greeks bearing gifts." He urged them to destroy the horse, even hurling a spear into its side. The warning echoed, but the city was swept up in celebration. The desire for peace drowned out caution. The Trojans decided to bring the horse inside, tearing down part of their own walls to do it. The horse became the centerpiece of their triumph. In their joy, they ignored the doubts and silenced the skeptics. The city's greatest defense was now its greatest vulnerability. The Trojans welcomed their doom, disguised as a gift. Sometimes victory blinds us to the dangers we invite inside. As debate raged, a terrifying omen struck. Laocoon, the lone voice of warning, was attacked by 2 monstrous sea serpents. He and his sons were killed before the horrified Trojans. The crowd saw this as divine punishment for doubting the horse. Fear replaced skepticism. The horse was now seen as sacred. No one dared question the gift any longer. The death of Laocoon sealed Troy's fate. The Trojans believed the gods demanded the horse be honored. Their last chance at salvation was lost to superstition. The warning was clear, but it was fatally misunderstood. The city's doom was now inevitable. Sometimes the truth is silenced by fear. With all doubts erased, the Trojans dragged the horse into their city, tearing down their own walls to do so. The city erupted in celebration. Songs, dancing, and feasting filled the streets. 4 times the horse stuck at the threshold, but no one heeded the ominous sounds from within. As night fell, Troy was lost in revelry and relief. The gates were left unguarded, the city vulnerable. For the first time in a decade, the Trojans slept soundly, believing the war was over. But the enemy was already inside, hidden in the heart of their city. The silence of the night was not peace, but the calm before disaster. The city's defenses were down, its people unarmed. The stage was set for the final act. Troy's greatest festival would become its funeral. The moon rose over a city that had unknowingly sealed its fate. Sometimes the end comes not with a battle, but with a celebration. In the dead of night, the Greeks emerged from the horse. Odysseus and his men signaled the hidden fleet. The Greek army returned, storming the city. The gates were thrown open from within. Troy was defenseless. The slaughter was swift and merciless. Houses burned, screams filled the night, and the city was consumed by fire. King Priam was killed at his own altar. The Trojan heroes were cut down in their sleep. The city was annihilated, its treasures looted, its people enslaved. Helen was found and returned to Menelaus. The war ended not with glory but with betrayal and horror. The Greeks had won, but at a terrible cost. Troy, once the jewel of the Aegean, was reduced to ashes. The legend was born in fire and deceit. The Trojan Horse is more than a story, it's a lesson in strategy, trust, and human nature. The Greeks won by exploiting the Trojans' pride and longing for peace. The horse was a weapon of the mind, not just of war. The tale warns us, question gifts from your enemies and beware the comfort of easy answers. Laocoon's fate reminds us that truth-tellers are often silenced. The story endures because it's about more than war. It's about the choices we make and the price of self-deception. Was the Greeks' trick genius or treachery? The answer is never simple. The fall of Troy is a timeless warning. Sometimes our greatest enemy is the story we want to believe. If you want more ancient tales and timeless lessons, subscribe and join us for more journeys into the past.